Welcome back. So in this specific session, let's learn about some of the hands-on of stored procedures. So first stored procedure that we create to just very simple the create procedure get employees, which will give you the all the employees out of the employee table. This is a very simple store procedure, so you might not be using this in particular use cases. Whenever you execute the store procedure query, the stored procedure will be created here, right? And if you see the response, the 0 rows are affected. And if you go and see the stored procedures are being stored under stored procedures section within the database structure. So tables will be under tables and the stored procedure will go here. Okay, so how to call the store procedure? We have seen the syntax to call the store procedure in earlier session. So just you use the call keyword and just use the store procedure name to call the store procedures. So by calling this query, by executing that query, I was able to see all the list of employees that we have in that particular database table. So the next store procedure, so what we will do in this particular session is we will explore the store procedure step by step. The first one that we have looked into is the very basic stored procedure that we have. Once you create the stored procedure, if you want to drop the stored procedure, you can still do that using the drop. So the drop command, which will be drop procedure if exist. So get employees is actually the stored procedure name that we have here, right? So if you drop the stored procedure, it will be deleted from the database actually. And if you see, even if you refresh, I don't see any stored procedure under the stored procedure section. So for these stored procedures, you can even have or pass the parameter. Normally we call that as a parameterized stored procedures. If you want to have the stored procedures parameterized, so you will have the parameters that you will pass into the stored procedure. So in talks about it's a parameter employee ID going inside this, okay, and it is an integer type, right? And the query that I am executing, just selecting the employee and employee address by joining the two tables and just trying to show the output of employee details to the user as a response. So when we execute, the query has been created. So once you create the query, if you want to fetch, you can pass your input parameter to this particular stored procedure. When you pass this input parameter to the stored procedure, you have received the response. So I mean to say I'm calling the get employee details of the stored procedure that we have created. And for example, if I say like employee 10, so and there is no employee 10 into the database table. If you want to see the employee 10 is there, select star from employee where employee underscore ID, right, is 10. So if you see this query, execute the query, there is no record for the employee ID 10. But if you see employee ID 11, there must be some record. I have one record which is Peter John, and the Peter John record, if you try to call from the stored procedure, let me call the get employee details, and I could see the Peter John here. Let me check where exactly the issue happened here. I was able to get the record of John D, which is 11. Okay, and John D, select star from this. I have received the John D, that is the correct one. When I'm changing to 11, okay, I think we are using the join here. So and concatenating the, we are also looking for the employee address in this table, and if the employee address is not there, then we are not getting the employee information as well, because this is purely an inner join. If the data matched in both the tables, the response will be back to us, and if the data is not matching, then the response will not be back. For example, employee record 9. So we have the employee record 9, which has the James Miller engineering, and if you pass the employee record 9 here, then you will be seeing the details of that particular employee record along with the address, right? So for the same one, if I talk about 11, I was telling right. So if it is 11, you have an employee details, but let's try to see if you have any employee address. Okay, so for this particular record, there is no employee address. That's why, as we are using the inner join query within the stored procedure, you are not receiving the response when we call the stored procedure with the record 11, employee ID 11. So if you want to update the records into the tables, you can still use the stored procedures. So updating of the record, I will show you the very sample query. Update employee, and I'm passing the employee ID, which employee ID I want to update, what is the new name of employee, what is the employee designation and department, and I'm just trying to update the employee table with the details that I have received. So update employee, employee name and designation, department, and where clause that you have, right? If you see the stored procedure structure, so I'm just using the delimiter with this forward slashes, and I'm ending the stored procedure with the forward slashes, and again I'm resetting the delimiter back to the semicolon. So let's execute this create procedure query and see like whether the stored procedure have been created into the stored procedures or not. So this is an update employee stored procedure. Update employee stored procedure has been created. Let's try to call this update inquiry. So update inquiry, when you call with a record, so for example, before you update, right, let's try to get what is the details that you have for the employee ID 2. Select star from employee where employee underscore ID, okay, equals to 2, right? Or yeah, equals to 2. Let's see like what is the data you have. That is the data you have is the new name SP, and you have a manager and IT department, right? So whenever we using this stored procedure, I want to say this is John Pope, okay, he is an analyst, okay, analyst, and I want to use the department as finance. All right, I'm trying to update the record 2 or employee 2 with the details that I received using the update employee stored procedure. So when we look into that information, when you try to select the details, yes, so if you see the John Pope that we have passed here, and designation we passed as an analyst, and department we passed as an finance, okay, the data has been updated into the table. So this is how the update query that you will execute for the stored procedure. And the next one, so very interesting thing, so in the stored procedures that we have seen till now, we are passing the in parameters, but if you want to get some information out of it outside, you can also pass the out parameter to the stored procedure. So out parameter, when you mention out here, the total is the parameter which will be coming out of this particular stored procedure. So what we are trying to do, select star count star, okay, into total from employee table where the department is DEPT. So DEPT is the department which we are trying to pass to this stored procedure as a in, and total is the parameter which we are trying to expect out of this stored procedure, and the procedure is actually the get employee count by department. So let's create this stored procedure. So once we create this stored procedure, so the stored procedure has been created, and see like get employee details, get employee count, right, by department. That is the stored procedure that has been created. So let's try to see how we can invoke this particular stored procedure. So whenever you use the out parameter, Out parameter is always kind of a variable that you will send to the stored procedure. I'm using the variable total, and the total is @ symbol. So this is the variable which is going inside the stored procedure, and the value that is generated out of this select query will be assigned to the total, and that will be total will be coming as a parameter to out of that stored procedure. Whenever you call this particular stored procedure, whenever you call, there is no output, right? Though you are saying that you have assigned the value count to this total, but it is not visible outside of the stored procedure. For this reason, what we have to do is we have to use the select. Okay, we have to use the select @total as a total, right? So technically, if you see with the IT department, okay, we have total 11 records in the employee table. So the value that we have assigned to this particular variable has been assigned to this particular variable, and we are getting that as a total employee count, column on this particular thing, right? So handling of out parameters, very, very, very important in stored procedures development, or using of the stored procedures in any of your regular applications. Till now we have looked into the basic queries that we can introduce or work or develop in the stored procedures world, right? Let's look into a little bit complex queries, right? So I will be sharing some of the complex queries which you may be really using in your regular application development. These are really important for you, right? So technically I have something called an insert employee stored procedure. This insert employee stored procedure is taking entire employee information like employee name, designation, and address details, and the skill details, right? And what it is trying to do is it is trying to update multiple tables in one go, right? What I'm trying to do here, let me make it a little bigger for better understanding. Okay, so if you see into the query, so the declare employee ID as an int. So employee ID we are just declaring, because until we insert the record into the insert a table, we will not be having the employee ID, right? It's an auto increment value that we have, right? So you are inserting the employee using the insert query. As soon as you insert, the last insert ID is the function which is provided by MySQL to get the ID that is generated out of this query, right? That I am assigning to emp ID, and using this emp ID I'll be inserting the data into the employee address table, where I'm getting the employee ID, address line, city, state, and country. So here in this particular table, the address ID is auto generated value, right? And again, using the same employee ID, I am also inserting into the employee skill set table. So for in this employee skill set table, I'm passing employee ID and skill ID, but employee ID and skill ID. So based on that, the data will be inserted into that particular database table, right? So if you look into this, with one invocation of stored procedure, the data is being inserted into 3 multiple tables, right? This might be very, very simple scenario that you will be using in your regular implementation if you are looking for high performance applications, right? So in that case, so now what you do is, so let's try to call this stored procedure. So to call this stored procedure, I have been having the information that we have. So I'm saying like I want to insert a record, right? So John procedure, right? That is the record that I'm trying to insert with all the information that we have. When I call this stored procedure, the record is being inserted. So how we check? Select star from employee, okay, So where we'll see, like we'll scroll and see, because we have very less records. So the last record that you have is the John procedure, which is record 30, that is inserted. Okay, so I'm trying to insert the second record John procedure 2, which is again inserted. And if you see the record 31 should be there with the John procedure 2, manager and IT, right? So that is one of the way of having the complex implementation of stored procedure. Okay, similar way, if you want to update, right, if you want to update, you can do the update as well with the complex or using the multiple tables, right? So in case of update, I'm just taking the employee ID and update information that is needed to an update employee stored procedure, and this is being passed to an employee table, and it's also being passed to employee address table, and employee and employee address tables are getting updated in a single query, right, in a single call of stored procedure. So when I call this stored procedure, this stored procedure is actually updating that. Okay, so incorrect arguments of procedure, disable update employee, expected 4 but got 8. So I think update employee 2 stored procedure, I would say. Okay, so this update employee 2 stored procedure is created, and I'm just saying that update employee 2 stored procedure I'm invoking. So this has been rows records have been updated, record number 10. So if you want to see, like select star from employee, right? So select star from employee, you have the record 10 is not available, but it is not throwing the error. Record 10 is not available in the database table, but it is not throwing. It's saying that the query execution is successful. So this is the one of the disadvantage that we have with the stored procedures. Whenever the record is not available, ideally it should throw an error, right? For now, let's try to update record 11, which is available, that we have seen. Record 11 is available, which is a Peter John, for this specific use case, and try to see if the record is being updated, right? So record is 11 has been updated, and go and see. So update proc name should be there for the record 11. But now the issue that we have seen, right, how to handle that particular scenario, right, the update employee scenario, how to handle that particular scenario, right? So for that, we will be looking into the if else conditions in shortly. Okay, so let's go back and check what is the next thing that we can do. Okay, so next thing that you have is a delete employee, right? If you want to delete multiple records from the different tables, still you can use the delete of employees, right? So if you create a delete employee, so this is the particular stored procedure which has been created, and if I want to delete the record which is currently available as 11, okay, which is recently updated, so yes, you can still delete that and select star from employee. If you execute this query, then record number 11 should not be available in the database table, right? So now basically, so what you do in the earlier scenario, right? Okay, so then retrieve, let's look into the conditional ones. The conditional ones will help actually. Okay, so this is how we write the stored procedures. I am giving another example for our use case, right? So check if employee exists and insert or update the address. So basically this is how we have to do in this particular scenario. Whenever we are trying to update, check if the record is available, the employee ID 10 is available. If 10 is not available, you can do the insert command as well, or if you want to throw the error, you can definitely throw the error for that particular stored procedure, right? So similar to that, right? So manage employee address. Manage employee address, what it does is it is taking the employee count and it is taking the count star of in employee count, okay, where whatever the employee ID that is coming, right, whatever the employee ID coming, if that employee ID exist, right, if that is exist, if employee exist, then update the address. If employee doesn't exist, then insert the address. So the insert and update queries are very similar, right? We are not having any new type of queries that we are writing, but the catch here is you can have if and else conditions within the stored procedure. And whenever you open the if, then if the condition, you will have a condition, then if the condition is passed, then do something. If the condition is not passed, do something. Then at the end, just end the if statement. That's how you can write the if else conditions in the stored procedures. Okay, in the same way you can also do the transactions in the same like in the sense like so for example, you are updating multiple tables. Okay, so we haven't looked into this particular we haven't executed this manage employee address, right? Let's go ahead and execute that first. So manage employee, I think the query is already there. Create procedure manage employee. You have an error in check near line 9. Okay, some error is coming near line 9. MySQL server version of the right syntax use near. Okay, so I didn't use the delimiter. So that's where is causing, while executing I didn't use the delimiter, that's where it caused the problem. Now I included the delimiter. Okay, so then call the manage address and see how the record number 10. Okay, record number 10. So what will happen? Okay, record number 10. So what will happen is something like this. Okay, there is no record number 10 that is not available. You cannot update a record which is not available, right? But record number 12, I think I can go and see select star from employee and take an employee record which is existing record, right? So 12 is existing, which is a Robert John manager IT. So I'm trying to update the address for the Robert John and it is successful, right? So select star from employee underscore address where employee underscore ID equals to 12. This is the record that we have. So that record is actually, yeah, so you got the employee address. Okay, so manage employee address, what it does, manage employee address is actually doing the updating or inserting employee ID, address line, city, state, country, and then it will be having this. Okay, select star from employee. Okay, so the employee is actually, you have the record 12 will be inserted. So record 12 you have, and employee address, okay, let's see what are the records that you have in employee address. Employee address is having employee ID 12, there is no record. So that's where the problem happened. So there is no record at all. Let's try to do this for record number 9. Okay, record number 9, you have the record. Okay, and you can pause the record number 9 over here and try to execute the query. It will go and work as expected. Okay, so the next one, if you want to do the transactions, yes, you can do the transactions inside the stored procedure. So the transaction queries looks like this. So you will have a start transaction, and then you will have the commit transaction. In between this, if both the queries are successful, If the both the queries are successful, then the transaction will be successful. Any of the table that is not updated properly, then both the tables will not be updated. So that's how the transaction will help. We will look into the more details of the transaction in the future sessions, but we will also discuss about how we can do and principles of the transactions and all. For now, I would say like this is the best way to understand is you start the transaction, you can update the multiple tables and commit the transaction after successful updating of multiple tables. So if any of the table is not updated, the other tables will also be, changes in the other tables also gets reverted. So that's the best advantage of using the stored procedures. Stored procedures more like when we have a transaction based queries, instead of writing the transactions in your specific programming languages, you can use the stored procedures to perform your transactions. That will be really helpful, right? So in this I'm just taking the some of the record, okay, and I can change the or transfer the employee from one department to other department as well. So that's how the execution that is being happening. Okay, so with that said, so we have looked into the very low level details of stored procedures, and we'll meet with the next session in the next video. Thank you.